Rachel had always been a strong, determined woman. At 35, she had devoted much of her life to the company she worked for, hoping to secure a better future for her daughter, Emily. From a young age, Rachel learned to fight for her achievements, working tirelessly to provide for her small family. Her job at the company was her greatest security, a place where she believed she had built not just a career, but also friendships and trust. However, everything changed suddenly. On a gray morning, Rachel was summoned to the office of the CEO. She felt nervous, but she could never have imagined what was about to happen. Sitting across from the CEO, she noticed his severe expression, and a chill ran down her spine. He opened a folder of documents and, without any preamble, began accusing her of embezzlement. The papers and documents presented as evidence were false, but convincing. Her protests fell on deaf ears, and Rachel was summarily dismissed. Expelled from the place she considered her second home, Rachel returned to her small apartment with a heavy heart. As soon as she stepped through the door, the tears came uncontrollably. She felt betrayed, wronged, and, above all, desperate. How would she support her daughter now? Her savings were limited, and the bills would soon start piling up. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Rachel tirelessly searched for a job, but doors kept closing one after another. The job market was tough, and the shadow of the false accusations haunted her, tarnishing her reputation. The financial situation deteriorated until, finally, the eviction notice arrived. With a broken heart, Rachel and Emily were forced to leave the apartment they called home. The streets were cold and unforgiving. Rachel tried to shield Emily from the harsh realities, but it was a battle she was losing. They slept in makeshift shelters and depended on the kindness of strangers for food. Rachel felt an immense weight on her shoulders, the responsibility of caring for Emily and the inability to change their dire situation. The pain and despair deepened with each passing day. Each night on the streets was a new challenge. Rachel and Emily faced constant insecurity and fear. Little Emily, only 8 years old, showed more courage than Rachel could have imagined. Often, it was Emily who comforted Rachel when the tears inevitably came. "Mom, we'll get through this. I believe in you," Emily would say with a maturity that broke Rachel's heart. The nights grew even colder when the wind blew mercilessly, cutting through their thin clothing and makeshift blankets. Rachel did everything she could to shield Emily from the cold, often sacrificing the little comfort she had. One night, Rachel hugged Emily tightly, trying to share what little warmth was left in her body. "Everything will be okay, sweetheart. I promise I'll find a solution," she whispered, though her own voice was uncertain. By day, Rachel roamed the streets in search of work, entering and leaving stores, offices, and restaurants, always with the same discouraging result. The constant rejections began to wear down her spirit, but she knew she couldn't give up. During one of her job hunts, she ran into an old colleague, Sarah, who seemed uncomfortable to see her. "Rachel, I'm so sorry about what happened. I don't know what to believe. People are saying so many things," Sarah said, avoiding eye contact. "Sarah, you've known me for years. You know I would never do anything like that. I need help. Anything you can do for me and my daughter would be a blessing," Rachel pleaded, holding Sarah's hands. I'll see what I can do, Rachel. I'll talk to some people. But I can't promise anything," Sarah replied, slowly pulling away, leaving Rachel with a fragile hope. Meeting John. One particularly difficult night, Rachel met John. He was an unassuming man, but with eyes that radiated compassion and determination. He approached her cautiously, sensing her natural distrust. "Hello, my name is John. I know you don't know me, but I need to talk to you about something important," he said, trying not to scare her. Rachel looked at him warily. "What do you want?" "I have nothing to offer," she replied, pulling Emily closer to her. "I'm a private investigator. I'm here because I know you were wrongfully accused, and I have evidence that can help you clear your name," John explained, showing her a folder with documents. Rachel hesitated, but curiosity and desperation made her accept John's offer to look at the documents. They sat on a dimly lit park bench, and John began to reveal details that only someone with privileged access could know. He showed her documents he had collected, proof that Rachel had been the victim of a complex and cruel scheme. The company's executives, involved in a corruption ring, had embezzled large sums of money and needed a scapegoat to cover their tracks. Rachel, a dedicated and trusted employee, had been chosen. "How can I trust you? Why are you helping me?" Rachel asked, still cautious. "I was hired by someone who believes in your innocence. This person prefers to remain anonymous, but they are convinced you deserve justice," John replied sincerely. With the evidence in hand, Rachel felt a mix of relief and anger. Relief at knowing she wasn't crazy, and anger at the injustice she had suffered. John not only revealed the information but also offered his help to restore Rachel's life. He had been hired by an anonymous ally, someone who knew Rachel's integrity and wanted to expose the company's corruption. Hope began to blossom again in Rachel's heart. With John by her side, she decided she would not give up. Together, they would start a journey to gather more evidence and finally confront those who had ruined her life. The fight would be arduous and dangerous, but Rachel was determined to clear her name and provide a better future for her daughter. The revelation. Despite her lingering doubts, Rachel decided to follow John in his investigation, though she maintained an emotional distance. They spent the first few weeks gathering evidence, reviewing documents, and speaking with former colleagues from the company. Over time, Rachel began to trust John. He proved to be dedicated and tireless in his pursuit of the truth. Together, they uncovered more evidence of the corruption, including suspicious bank transfers and fraudulent contracts. "Rachel, look at this," John said one night while they were sitting in a small cafe that had kindly offered them a quiet corner to work in. He showed her a set of bank documents detailing large transfers to offshore accounts. "These transfers are the key. They clearly show that the money was diverted and laundered through a series of shell companies," John explained. Rachel studied the documents, feeling the anger boil inside her. "Those bastards! They ruined my life and are living like kings," she said, clenching her fists. John revealed that one of the company's key executives, Mark, was the mastermind behind the scheme. Mark, a man with a respectable facade, had a history of illicit activities. Rachel and John decided to follow the money. They discovered that Mark used a network of shell companies to launder the embezzled funds. With each new discovery, the plot became more intricate. John managed to access encrypted emails and messages that clearly showed Mark and other executives' involvement in the corruption scheme. The evidence was irrefutable, but they needed something more to bring the case forward. The conspirators began to realize that Rachel was investigating and sent veiled threats. One night, she found her shelter ransacked and a threatening note left behind. Fear set in, but so did the determination to keep going. John suggested they take the evidence to an investigative journalist, Mike, who had a reputation for taking on corruption cases. Mike was interested and offered to help expose the story to the public. Mike published a series of articles that began raising suspicions about the company. Public pressure mounted, and the executives started to feel the heat, though they still held power. Former colleagues of Rachel, who had also been wronged, joined her. Together, they formed a support group and began organizing protests and petitions to draw attention to the case. With the evidence gathered and growing support, Rachel and John planned a major event to expose the whole truth. They decided to hold a press conference where they would reveal all the evidence. In the days leading up to the conference, tension mounted. Rachel and John took steps to ensure their safety and that of Emily. They knew the conspirators would stop at nothing to prevent the truth from coming out. On the eve of the conference, Rachel received a bribe offer from Mark. He promised a large sum of money and a fresh start if she would back off from exposing the truth. "You can have a new life, Rachel. All you need to do is walk away from this madness," Mark said with a cold smile. "My integrity isn't for sale, Mark. You ruined my life, and I'll make sure you pay for it." Rachel replied, her resolve firm. Supported by John and her former colleagues, Rachel refused the bribe. She knew that integrity and justice were more important than any sum of money. The team gathered one last time before the conference. They reviewed all the evidence and ensured everything was ready for the big revelation. On the day of the conference, Rachel felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. With Emily by her side, she was ready to face whatever consequences came. A powerful statement. The press conference finally began, with journalists and cameras from various media outlets present. Rachel stepped onto the stage with John and Mike, feeling everyone's eyes on her. The lights were intense, and the murmur of conversations filled the room as the reporters prepared to record every word. Rachel took a deep breath, trying to calm her nerves. With a brief glance at Emily, who was sitting in the front row, she found the strength she needed. Rachel began to speak, sharing her story of injustice and suffering. The emotion in her voice was palpable, and the audience was visibly moved. She described how she was wrongfully dismissed, the hardships she faced living on the streets, and her struggle to protect her daughter. Every word resonated through the room, and the journalists frantically took notes, recognizing the gravity of the situation. "I was betrayed by those I trusted most. I was used as a scapegoat in a corruption scheme that ruined my life. But I won't give up. The truth needs to be known," Rachel said firmly. John then presented the evidence, one piece at a time. He displayed emails, financial documents, bank transfer records, and fraudulent contracts. The evidence was projected on a large screen for everyone to see. The journalists began asking probing questions, trying to grasp the full extent of the corruption. The audience was shocked by the coldness and dishonesty of the executives involved. In the middle of the presentation, a group of men attempted to disrupt the conference. They were clearly sent by the conspirators to silence Rachel and John. The event security, previously alerted, quickly intervened and removed the intruders. The tension in the air was palpable, but the conference continued. John calmly resumed presenting the evidence, maintaining his composure. Rachel made a final powerful statement, appealing for justice and accountability. She revealed that everything she did was for her daughter's future and for all the other victims of corruption. She looked directly into the cameras, urging the public and authorities not to let the injustice continue. Her voice was steady, and her conviction unshakable. "I'm not here just for myself, but for all those who have been victims of this corruption. We need justice, we need change," Rachel said as tears of determination streamed down her face. The audience and journalists gave Rachel a standing ovation. Her courage and determination inspired everyone present. News of the conference spread quickly through social media and traditional media outlets. The corrupt company began facing massive public backlash. Authorities announced a formal investigation into the company and its executives. Mark and others involved were swiftly detained for questioning. Even as legal actions moved forward, Rachel and John continued to face threats. They had to be cautious, as the conspirators had not completely given up. Human rights organizations and anti-corruption groups offered ongoing support to Rachel and her cause, ensuring that she and Emily were protected. A new path. With the corrupt executives facing justice, the company began to restructure. Many of the former employees, including Rachel's friends, were reinstated. The news of Mark's arrest and the downfall of his accomplices spread widely, bringing a sense of justice and relief to all those involved. The initial chaos gave way to an atmosphere of renewal and hope. Rachel received constant support from the community. Various charity and social justice organizations offered help to her and her daughter. This support was not only financial but also emotional, providing Rachel with a safety net she hadn't had before. People rallied to help in various ways, from donations to psychological support. Rachel and Emily were given police protection due to the ongoing threats. With their safety assured, they began to feel some peace. The constant fear started to subside, and they could finally begin living without constantly looking over their shoulders. The police continued to investigate any remaining threats, ensuring that mother and daughter were out of danger. Thanks to the support of friends and the community, Rachel was able to recover some of the lost money and began stabilizing her financial situation. Donations and a new job allowed her to pay off debts and start rebuilding her life with more security. The financial relief allowed Rachel to focus her energy on other important aspects of her life. The new company offered Rachel a job that not only paid well but also recognized her value and the importance of her fight. She took on a leadership role where she could positively influence the company's culture, ensuring that corrupt practices would never again take root. Rachel felt immense pride and satisfaction at being able to work in an environment that valued integrity. With the help of her new and old allies, Rachel found a new home for her and Emily, where they could finally feel safe and stable. The new home was cozy and full of promises for a better future. Rachel made sure to decorate Emily's room with care, creating a space where the girl could feel protected and happy. The local community organized an event in Rachel's honor, celebrating her courage and resilience. It was a moment of joy and recognition, where Rachel was applauded for her determination and strength. Friends, family, and new allies gathered to celebrate the victory over corruption and injustice. Rachel felt deeply grateful and moved by the outpouring of support. A new life. Rachel and Emily began a new life, stronger and more united than ever. After all the adversities, they finally found a sense of normalcy and stability. Emily returned to school, where she quickly adapted and began to thrive both academically and socially. Rachel felt immense pride watching her daughter regain her joy and innocence. The nights in their new home were calm and filled with laughter, a stark contrast to the times of uncertainty and fear. Rachel was recognized as a local hero for her fight against corruption. Various institutions and civic organizations invited her to speak at lectures and events, where she shared her story of overcoming adversity. In every speech, Rachel emphasized the importance of integrity, courage, and perseverance. Her story inspired many who were also facing challenges and injustices. She became a respected public figure, known for her honesty and determination. They now lived in a safe and stable environment, with a welcoming home and a supportive community. The new neighborhood was peaceful, and the neighbors quickly became friends. Rachel felt a deep sense of belonging, something she hadn't experienced in a long time. One night, the neighbors organized a surprise party for Rachel and Emily, celebrating their courage and the new life they had built. Rachel, overwhelmed with emotion, realized how much her life had changed for the better. Rachel felt grateful for the support she received and decided to help others in similar situations. She became actively involved in community work, offering emotional and legal support to other victims of injustice. She created a support group where she shared resources and information, helping many find the strength to fight for their rights. In one of these support sessions, Rachel met a young mother in a situation similar to what she had gone through. With empathy and wisdom, Rachel offered guidance and support, seeing her own past reflected in the woman's story. The experience taught Rachel and Emily about resilience, courage, and the importance of fighting for justice and truth. They became advocates for justice and transparency, participating in campaigns and movements aimed at ending corruption. Rachel, now more confident than ever, felt fulfilled seeing the positive impact her actions had on other people's lives. At a community event, Rachel was invited to cut the ribbon at the opening of a new support center for victims of injustice, a project she helped create. Rachel began planning a promising future for herself and her daughter, with new opportunities and dreams to pursue. She decided to invest in Emily's education, ensuring the girl had every opportunity to grow and develop. Inspired by her mother's strength, Emily began to dream big, talking about becoming a lawyer or journalist to help others. Together, they discussed plans for the future, dreaming of travel, education, and a life full of achievements. Despite all the adversities, Rachel and Emily found happiness and fulfillment in their new lives. They knew that together, they could overcome any obstacle. The bond between mother and daughter grew even stronger, and they both began to look to the future with optimism and hope. Rachel knew that her fight had not only brought justice but also a new purpose to their lives. They spent Christmas Eve in their new home, surrounded by friends and family, finally feeling at peace. Reflecting on her journey, Rachel realized that the experience had transformed her into a stronger and more determined person. She looked at Emily with pride and hope, seeing in her the continuation of her struggle and the promise of a bright future. Together, they continued to build their lives, knowing that, even in the face of the greatest adversities, there would always be a path to justice and redemption. One afternoon, as they walked through the park, Rachel and Emily came across a plaque with the inscription, "The courage to fight for the truth transforms the world." They smiled, knowing that these words were now part of their lives. Rachel's story teaches us that perseverance and courage are powerful forces that can overcome even the most difficult adversities. Despite facing devastating injustice and being kicked out of her home, Rachel never gave up. She found strength in her determination to clear her name and protect her daughter, and with the help of friends and unexpected allies, she managed to transform her life and bring justice to light. This narrative reminds us that, even when everything seems lost, truth and justice will prevail if we have the courage to fight for them. The unity and support of the community are also essential in facing and overcoming great challenges. Emotional support and solidarity can make all the difference in the life of someone going through a difficult time. And you? Have you ever faced a situation where you had to fight against injustice? Share your story in the comments. Let's create a chain of support and inspiration. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with your friends and family. Your support is essential for us to continue bringing inspiring and thought-provoking stories. Fighting for truth and justice is not just a duty, it's the path to transforming the world.